accessible. It's probably just me, right? Because I'm that girl that was picked on, and you seem like the cool kid. And if I was in your orbit, if we were at the same age and I was in your orbit, I would feel like you would not deign me to be cool enough to hang out with.
Wow.
But that's like my high school trauma that
I gotta still work through that.
Right, I still gotta work through.
No, I have heard that I'm not approachable because I have like a resting face, But so I work on that. But then people get to know me and they're like, "Oh, you're so sweet."
But you're really cool. You come across really cool.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
Probably just the reserve.
So that's why when you say you're an introvert, it would be very surprising to hear that.
Okay.
Yeah. I hope this comes across well, and that people get from it the intent behind it is definitely to encourage people in their walk. So we were talking earlier, and I was moved by your story.
Just to kind of run it back, in my work relationships, in my work area, and actually it's not just in my work life. I've noticed that in other areas of life, as I build relationships with people, I've noticed that I wouldn't say there's like this gravitation, but I noticed that like a common theme that I'll often build relationships with those who have relationships, people who label themselves as gay or having a spouse who is, of the same sex. And this is men and women. And I've never felt intimidated or shied away from, that information when it's made known to me. And really, I welcome it. I actually think that, as believers, God calls us to relationships with people, period. When I think about Jesus's life and his time, he sought out people who were not, who did not necessarily understand or know about him, or maybe who the church folk in the Bible thought he should be hanging with. And not that I use that as a template, but I find comfort in that. That as I meet people on my job or wherever I go, that, we can build relationships with them no matter what. So anyways, in the story I was saying that after just kind of seeing some of that pattern, I asked the Lord to show me like, what is, why? Mm-hmm. What is his purpose? And so as someone who has been impacted by the gospel, I think there's still that natural fear of like, how do I share the gospel without running people off?
Right.
And so my prayer has just been that the Lord would help me to be as natural and authentic in my personal relationship with him and how I live that out, no matter where I am. I don't want to be intentionally on the job trying to, I'm here to, love you for Jesus. But if I know that there is a rift or some type of issue at my job, I'm like, Lord, help me to know how to navigate this, right. Not just so that I grow, but because other people are watching, mm-hmm. and they know that I'm a believer. And so in the story I was sharing,
and you know what, that is something that I have found to be the case, because I still sin, right?
Yeah.
And everyone, if you know me and have conversation with me more than 15 minutes, I'm probably gonna tell you how much I love God. And but there are things that I still do.
Yeah. Struggle with. Yes.
All of that. Yes. And so there's almost a wariness in, representing him,
yes.
because I don't want to be the one to be oh, I thought she was this,
Yep.
that, and the other. So why she doing that?
And mess
Or, you know,
his name up.
and mess his
Yes,
name up,
yes,
right?
yes.
Especially when you see in the headlines, you know,
Yeah.
people that fall from grace,
Yeah.
and the judgment that, as soon as you see it, they're harping on it. Like,
Yeah.
see, I knew them Christians weren't nothing,
Yeah.
and that kind of thing just hurts my heart. So sometimes I almost feel like I want to lay back and not proclaim, because I
Like-
know I'm not perfect.
Like, God, you prefer me not to, you know,
I
because
don't-
otherwise I'm just gonna mess your name up.
Right?
And so let me just not say anything. Stay in this little shell here, so I don't mess things up for you. You know?
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's so much. What I love about that is there's so much grace in it that He wants us to still be authentic in our life, but to remain close to Him. Him knowing that we are gonna mess some things up, and you know it might mess. It might go out there and mess His name up, you know, but I feel like He protects His name as well, you know, so even if we mess it up, then God can still use either that situation or another situation to help someone better understand who He is or His love. But yeah, I feel you on that. I'm like, oh, you know, if I don't do this right, then someone else might, and I think we can't really live in that kind of fear either, but
and that's
Yeah.
what it is. I think I had an instance where, and you know, I have a friend that that went through an abortion,
mm-hmm.
and she stopped talking to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I kept calling and be like, "What's up? Why haven't you returned my call?"
Mm-hmm.
And after some time, she shared with me what she'd gone through,
Mhm.
and the reason she didn't talk to me was because she knew as a Christian, and she thought I would judge her.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of thing that just makes my heart hurt,
Yeah.
because God loves me through everything.
Yeah.
Through what was Pastor Lawrence say, all means all,
Mhm.
and that's all it
All.
means. He loves us through all the things
Yeah.
we do, and it's hard to conceive of that kind
Yeah.
of love, which is why people turn away from
Yeah.
it, because they think of love in human terms,
Yep.
right? Because
Yeah.
human love is very conditional.
Yeah.
You do for me, I love you because you buy me all the
Yeah.
food, right?
Yeah. And I think even believers, I mean, I think when I think about, you know, the things that I've done that in my mind, I feel like fell from grace. I know I fell from grace in the eyes of other people, but I also translated that to like, well, God, I guess you're just gonna, I mean, because you saw that coming and you allowed it to happen, so I must not be in good grace with you anymore. And I find comfort in, you know, stories like even Paul, and we talk so highly of Paul, but like he was a self-professed, not believer of the way, but you know, Sadducee or whatever they had in those
Mhm.
days.
Mhm.
And so people saw him as the law keeper, but yet he was persecuting Christians.
Mhm.
And yet God loved him enough to transform his life and cause him to do the right work for him. And who was it, Peter, who denied him, and yet he said, you know, on this rock I'll build my church. So the type of redemption, like, helped me, that type of redemption helped me realize that a lot of times we judge ourselves the same way we think other people, the way you just described that other people feel like Christians are judging them.
Mhm.
We judge ourselves that way. And like you said, it's a love that we can't sometimes conceive. And that's what's so beautiful, I think, about the gospel, is that it welcomes in all.
Mhm.
And the most inconceivable, God is like, nope, I love you in spite of those things so much that I want you. And I think if we can help other people, if we can live that so that other people can see and feel that, then I think that's, you know, that's the real game changer.
That's the goal,
Yeah.
right? That's the goal.
And I think that's why I'm not, you know, people come with different labels or however they just, you know, lifestyles and things like that. And I'm not moved by that. And I think sometimes when they find out I'm a believer, they're like, oh, she's still willing to come to my house and break bread with me. And I'm like, yeah, that doesn't move me. Because there's things in my life that I struggle with.
Yeah.
And God loves me enough to help me walk through that. But you need to also know God's love, not because of the lifestyle that you've chosen or whatever, but because He loves you.
Right.
It's not conditional.
Right.
You know?
You know, I am of the mindset that just because your sin isn't my sin
Yeah.
doesn't mean I'm better than you. And I think that that's one of the problems with Christians today is
we rank these things.
we rank.
Oh my gosh.
But come on now.
Yeah.
God looking at us, our righteousness is filthy rags.
Filthy rags, yes. And, oh my gosh, I'm so glad you said that, because I think even in the Christian circle, and I know I keep going back to that, but then we use that rank as a way of saying that, you know, well, I hope God still want me. You know, I hope, as if salvation can be lost.
Right.
You know, and whether you're a non-believer or a believer, like that is salvation isn't predicated on our works and what we're doing. You know, it's all about His character.
That's a slippery slope to go
It
down,
is.
because then that means
Yeah.
you your own God.
Yes.
No, it don't work that way.
Yeah.
It don't work that way.
Yeah, and I think that's probably, that plays a lot into how we, you know, how we manage and operate in relationship with each other. Is making sure that other people don't feel that way, that we make a safe space for anyone to share, you know, their struggles with us, or how their life with us. And it, you know, when they tell you fix your face, that we're protecting our face from, you know, the shock factor,
Right.
or whatever.
Right.
And all of that, I think, is just being cognizant of the grace that we've been extended, and then giving that grace to other people.
But it can be hard in the moment to believe it, right?
Oh yeah.
I know I had a period, not at my time here at Livermore before I came here, where I was, you know, sinning abundantly, exceedingly.
Wait, you were sinning exceedingly abundantly?
Yes. And so I stopped going to church.
Yeah, where you started
because I,
shrinking away.
yeah, I mean, I knew I was doing wrong. And so my church attendance became sporadic. But God always holds on to me.
Yeah, He has a way of yanking you back,
Right.
or just gently, you know, reminding and nudging you to help you feel comfortable enough to, you know, stay in fellowship, know how to stay in fellowship. I feel the same way when, you know, there's something that I'm struggling with, and I'm so grateful for the struggle. Like, I don't think people realize in Christianity, like, there is a real struggle. Sometimes people say, you know, once you give your life to Christ, it's almost like everything is great. And it's like, no, there will still be sin that you will very real. And the struggle, part of the struggle is not wanting to say those things or feel those ways or react that way or do that thing or whatever it is, and it being a journey of saying, okay, Lord, I did this again. I know it didn't surprise you, but I did it again. I'm really trying, but I did it again. And I think that's that fellowship that He wants, rather than us just kind of shrinking away and being like, you know what, I'm just not going to speak to you today because you probably really, really disappointed in me now, you know. But I think, like you were saying, and that, like, thinking about that helps you to better relate to other people. So even what you were sharing, like, oh, I shrunk away and, you know, I stopped going. I mean, that makes you relatable to people who will eventually do that, you know. But yeah, it helps us relate to others.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I'm finding, because believe it or not, I'm an introvert as well.
Okay.
And
Would not.
it is not my my comfortable place to do more than the hi and the bye. You know, I you know, I have enough in me to be like, hey, how you doing? And
Okay, all
and
right.
then I'm gone. But to actually stay and try and build an authentic relationship with someone, I've been convicted of that more and more over the last few years. The pandemic put a big hold. I wanted my pandemic time to be so much more productive than it was. I was like, I should have like 10 plays written.
Yeah.
I should have, all of these things accomplished for the kingdom in that time. But I will say that the time was spent with my family.
Oh, good.
So, whereas, still in the back of my head, I felt like it wasn't productive. It was. But, I lost my.
You were saying you want to be more than a high and by.
Yes,
yeah.
And so it's become the vehicle for that has been through my serving in the drama ministry.
Oh, okay.
Like I feel like those are my peeps.
Yeah.
Because the reason I got into drama is because I felt like I was an outcast. I wasn't liked. I didn't have friends. And so I feel like there's just that little bit of something in each of my drama peeps that I identify with and go, see, that's why we're in this group. There's that one little thing that that makes us family, that's similar enough to, I mean, they may not be the dweeb that I am, but there's just some little thing that makes them all relatable, and we've become a family, and so for me, it's not just about what we are gonna put up on that stage. It's about how can I serve you, how can I pray for you. You're part of my family now. I don't have family here in Houston other than my husband and my kids. So when we had like Thanksgiving, I had them over. It's the thing that I feel like Living Word is set up for me. That it is about making that real connection.
Wow. I thought you were the cool kid. I'm like, all the young adults hang with Melita. She ain't no young adult. She got the juice. What she got?
No. But I think it's because they are so Christ-centered. I'm in awe of that, and I just want to be around it. I just kind of muscle my way in. I'm just like,
I believe it. To be my friend. But that's good. You're able to build authentic community with your people.
Yeah.
And the ministry set that opportunity up for you.
That is what I hope is the goal for believers, is to build that community. Yeah. Because so many times you see people try to come into the church and they feel like they don't fit. And that's why I feel like drama is the best place to be, because we're all the misfits. Misfits united.
I think that's probably why I feel like people won't get involved in ministry or serve, is because there is that natural tendency to say, I can do the high and by. And in serving in ministry, you're kind of made to rub against people in ways that you may not want to, but that grows you. It stretches you outside of your comfort zone, and the same for me, not just working with people in ministry, but like when people come from the outside into the church, it's like, okay, Kim, get out of your high and by and go and say something and introduce yourself. And like, I don't have words. I'm an introvert. What do I say? And I'm all the way walking up to them and like, okay, what should I say? Maybe I should, what could I find that we could talk about? I'm like in my head, and it's really not that serious, but
yeah, it is.
It is. Introverts is that serious, but to God, it's like, just, let me do the rest. You just go up to them and speak, because you never know what that person is dealing with. Like you were saying, as, feeling like you were the misfit. This just puts you in that position, like you're walking in a new place and you're already feeling like, I don't really know if I fit in here. And then someone comes up to you and it changes the dynamic. It's like, sometimes I have to put that scenario in my head so I can get out of my comfort zone to go and speak to someone. you know.
It's hard.
It is. Oh, it's my challenge, and I think I'm so thankful for my mom because I was sharing earlier, like even though I grew up in church, it was about relationship at the house. My parents were the ones who shared the gospel with me, told me what relationship with God was like, and we're going to heaven. We're going to be living with God eternally, but that doesn't mean that you are. You don't get to ride on our coattails, and they were very blunt about that, and I appreciate it. But they share with me, how to come into relationship with the Lord, and then how to have devotions. But then it was more like, okay, so when you go to church, yes, it's about being fed, but when I was a teenager, and particularly when I started at Living Word, they were like, find someone who is by themselves and be a friend to them. And my mom was very adamant about making sure, did you speak to someone who you saw sitting by themselves today? And I don't know if she saw the introvert in me at the time or what it was that caused her to I don't know if she even challenged my other siblings to do that, but that was something that stood out to me. And so now, as an introvert, I'm very cognizant of it, that's the way the Holy Spirit challenges me. Don't walk out of here. I know you can go and be at home and your Sunday nap thing, but stop and speak to somebody and ask them how they're doing, or just build relationship with them. But like you said, that's difficult.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. It's not my natural state at all.
Yeah.
At all.
I think people need to hear that. I think everyone feels like, everyone talks to people after church. It's okay if I dip. I think not, for most of us, it's probably not our natural state. But it changes other people, and I feel like it can change us too. I know a few weeks ago I stayed behind after Rashad was like, we having food, and I was like, I smell it, I'm gonna stay. But I wanted to go home, and anyways, I stayed after, and I was like, okay, let me just serve. I'll just be here and serve. And the Holy Spirit was like, sit down and talk to somebody. So I found these ladies to speak to, and they ended up telling me their testimony of how they came to Living Word. And it blessed me so much. I mean, not that I need to hear someone's testimony of how they came to Living Word, but it was the pieces that God had orchestrated to get them here that helped remind me about how God orchestrates things divinely.
Right.
And that's what I needed for that season of what I was going through to hear. And so it was that kind of just refueled me to believe that it benefits getting out of your comfort zone, and speaking to someone that you might be deathly afraid of talking to.
Right.
Because you never know what God has in their story for you. So
Exactly. That's the beauty of God and how He works. I will say, I have had a period in my life where my daughter was in trouble, and I called Val and I said, I don't know what to do. And she clicked me to this person clicked me to that, all within this church community, and they took care of my daughter. And when I think about God's goodness, Kim, I can't even tell you. I mean, because when your child's in trouble, you don't know what to do. So that's why doing this, whatever this is, whatever it may turn out to be, if it's just to share with someone, to say, God is love, first and foremost. No matter what the circumstance you're going through, God is love. He loves you. You are loved. Because there are times when people don't feel loved.
Yeah.
They don't feel worthy.
Yeah.
If there's anything else that this gets across, just know you're loved. You're not alone.
Yeah.
People go through so many things in life, but you're not alone, because there is somebody else who has walked in those shoes.
Yep.
So I appreciate that you took the time to share with me, and whoever else happens to see this, but I'm like, I can hang out with Kim now. We cool.
Always.